Hello. Where am I today? Charleston, South Carolina. What's happening? Today was a bit touch and go, so I'm sorry I'm a little late, but we made it happen. I'm at a hotel that has a 4 o'clock check-in, and I had to talk them into kind of rushing a room so that I could go live. I explained to them, I'm like, there's a whole bunch of folks there, like Fred and Bent Tom and Ben, and they're going to be expecting me, and we don't want to disappoint them. We're all in this together. So, what's happening? Let's just get straight to it. I'll tell you what I'm up to and stuff like that after I answer a couple questions. Here's an important one. My custom PT SIG guitar has gone crap on me. The action just went down and like all the strings are stuck to the fretboard. So what's going on is the neck is backbowed. It's simple truss rod adjustment. One of the things about the PT guitar and most guitars with mahogany necks, Les Pauls, 335s, etc., I've always noticed that they're a little more susceptible to the neck changing curvature when it's mahogany. So that's just part of the game. When you've got a mahogany neck, it's a little bit more porous wood. That's how it works. So it's good to get into being able to check your own truss rod and diagnose any issues. That's really the only thing that can change when you consider it, right? Like nothing else has changed on the guitar. The bridge is in the same place. The nut is in the same place. So when you think it through logically, what can change? Well, the neck can rise in the middle by, going from a straight or slightly underbowed to being slightly backbowed. And then you get into a position where the strings are lying almost flat on the frets. If it's set up just right from the factory, it'll have great low action, be really playable. That neck backbows just a little bit, you end up with the situation that you're in. So all you need to do is put the truss rod adjuster that came with it in the truss rod nut at the top and just back it off. So counterclockwise, about a quarter turn. Check. So the way that you check, and the way you can check before you even do an adjustment, is by holding the G string. I usually use the G string at the first fret with this finger, right? And then use your thumb down at the end of the neck on the 22nd fret and push the G string down. And then you should tap the string around the 12th fret with your first finger. And more than likely, it's probably touching the fret or almost touching the fret. And then if you move your thumb down to the 12th fret and still hold the string down at the first fret, and then tap around the 7th fret or so, it's probably lying right on the frets. And what you want ideally there, like on the 7th fret, is just a hair of clearance when you're holding the string with your thumb at the 12th fret and at the first fret with your first finger on your left hand. Just, I like a business card of clearance thickness. At the 12th fret, a little more. 2 business cards. Maybe, not even 1.5. That's all you need. And if it's set up from the factory, it'll play just perfect then. So if you've got the guitar there, you could do that yourself. You don't really need to go pay somebody to do that, in my opinion. It's something you should be able to do. And you can, at the nut, because the truss rod adjustment is at the nut, there's no cover or anything. It's very easy. Just pull the D and the G string off to the side, pull them out of the nut slots, get them out of the way so that you don't dent them with the truss rod wrench. The truss rod wrench will slip in there very easily, and just back it off 1/4 turn and go in little quarter turn increments, never a half or anything. It's probably a very slight adjustment. When the weather changes, the humidity, it rains, it dries up, gets colder. These are things that you got to do on a general basis. I've been doing little truss rod adjustments on my maple neck new PT signature out here on the road since we got out here, just because they came from the West Coast to the East Coast and they're going to change. That's just how it is with any guitar. So, all right. Let us know how you do with that. Ben's got it right there. Yeah, 1/4 to 1/2 turn. All right. I'm out on the road with Bare Naked Ladies, and I'm playing with Five for Fighting, of course. And the pic, the thumbnail, is of myself and Chris from Delamitri. They're also out on the road with us, and we have a fun jam at the end of the night with all 3 bands on stage, and it's great. So he's a great guitar player, played with The Damned, and he's a cool cat. We have fun playing some Steve Miller at the end of the night. Yeah. I'm an influencer. Give me a room. Exactly. Don't you know who I am? I'm very niche on YouTube with people that like guitar pedals. It's very important. We're saving lives here. Much love from Bangladesh. But see that? We get all the way around the world because there's guitar nerds everywhere, right? Good to see you. How's the weather over there? I'll tell you what, it's hot here. Whoo, is it hot? It is warm. It might be warmer in Bangladesh, I bet, but it's pretty warm here. Let's see. I randomly bought this Roy Gallagher magazine, and you're in it. That's right. We did a. That's probably the Guitarist 500th anniversary or 500th anniversary issue, right? Over in the UK. It's a rundown of the classic rock show rigs and stuff. So it's pretty fun. I'm just going to set a little alarm here, guys, because I got to go to sound check in a bit. This is not going to be a super long one today. I'm going to have to leave it in about an hour, a little less, to get to sound check. We have a solo gig tonight. In other words, not with Bare Naked Ladies. Just it's a Five for Fighting solo show at a cool club in Charleston, South Carolina. Set an alarm for 45 minutes from now. You ever do that? It's the greatest thing on your phone. Just tell it. It does it. I do it when I'm cooking things. The best. Okay. What else are you guys talking about? I talked to you about EVH delay and H90 last live stream. I also ordered Boss EQ200. That's cool. Did that compensate getting 2 amps? Need to balance clean tones to the dirty tones. Silver Jubilee. Which would be helpful, I would think. You know, you can do so much with an EQ. It's pretty powerful. Guitars made in tropical countries need to climatize on arrival to northern climates and vice versa. I'm basically in a tropical climate now. It is really warm. And yeah, that's just how it goes when you move around in the weather. God, my eyes drive me crazy right now. I got an appointment with a top-notch eye surgeon in about 3 weeks. I'm really looking forward to it. Saying, all right, if I throw money at you, what are you going to do for me? Let's talk, because I'm over it. Let's see. Learning some diminished 7th arpeggios. Cool. But varying the positioning for fretboard knowledge. Been watching your VH videos for hours. Thanks, man. Please don't stop. And I'll watch if you put up some diminished 7th arpeggios, I'll watch those on video. I will do it. Title says, oh, did it? Sorry, I didn't realize that. I typed it really fast, and like I say, the old eyes aren't what they used to be. I was rushing to get here and get a coffee in time. It's kind of crazy. I took lessons from Steve Miller's guitar player. That's cool. He had gold records on his walls, but was not a teacher at all. That's commonly the thing, right? Just because you're a good player doesn't mean you're a good teacher. You know, some of the best are very methodical, you know? Like when I think of Tomo, right? You guys know who I'm talking about. Tomo Fujita, right? That's his last name. He's so methodical in his approach. And you see when he plays things, and, you know, that's what it requires is slow, methodical, understanding that every student learns at a different pace. He strikes me as a great teacher. Yeah. You got all your gear there, Nerd Halen. How's it working? Working good. Sirline outbox, EVH delay. Oh, August. Okay, so you don't have that yet, right? But you got the velocity. That's cool. I'll be excited to hear what you think. What do I think of the EVH 212 cab with G12 H anniversary? I don't know. I've never tried it. I haven't checked it out, so I'm not sure. I've kind of changed my tune on those speakers a little bit, and just hearing them on some YouTube videos, not in person. It wasn't my favorite speaker in person, the anniversary. I've had them in a few cabs, but I was listening to some clips recently in comparison to other speakers. I'm like, oh, they sound pretty good. I'll tell you what speaker I do like is the Heritage G12H. Is both the 55 hertz and they had a 75 hertz for a while. I think it's been discontinued. I don't think they make it anymore, but those speakers sounded really good to me. What else have we got here? Let's see. Can you do a review of the new Metropolis Metroplex Mark II? If he contacted me, I would. He actually, it's not, I love George, but he still owes me from a demo that I did for him years ago for a pedal. Well, next time I see him, I will rib him gently about that, because we never settled up on it. So there would be some there would be some, shall we say, the precursor negotiations to doing a Metropolis video. I've known George for years, so it's like, it's just silly. But Steven says, don't do the vitrectomy. I remember you said that. That's when you take all the vitreous out of your eye, which you do often if you do a lens replacement like cataract surgery and stuff, and then it gets replaced. I wonder why you say that, though. So I'd love to know your experience, because, of course, there's nothing like having an experience, or maybe you know somebody that had it done. From my research about such things, there's probably a few of you guys out there that have had cataract surgery, right? Because you're probably, some older guys in this, and this is part of what happens when you get older. So I'd love to hear some of your experiences. But anybody that's had a cataract surgery and a vitrectomy as sort of the side procedure that goes along with it, I would love to know what you think. This doctor that I'm going to see wrote a whole paper, medical paper, on how to do that procedure on people with that are extremely nearsighted like myself, and how to try and prevent any problems from happening, such as retinal detachments and stuff like that can occur. This has nothing to do with guitar, but anyways, I read his medical paper. It was pretty interesting. He seemed like quite an expert in, like, here's what you need to do to avoid all these issues, and this is common mistakes, and this is what I recommend. And he's a top-rated surgeon in the field. But I want to know, Stephen, what your experience is. I'm going to go down to the bottom of the chat there. I'm going to move fast today since we don't have a ton of time. But that's Mike with the big old super chat. Thanks, man. Thanks for sharing. You rock. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here. Michael says, my parents had that surgery, ultimately fine, but I don't know what weight that has. Well, that's good to know. Cataract surgery, just it's yeah. Be careful with anything that can detach a retina. Yeah, I've got a friend, a musician friend. He's a drummer, and he had a detached retina. He's had 2 detached retinas, actually, one in each eye, and his surgery went smashingly well, and he had vitrectomies in both eyes. So he said, because of that, it clears out floaters and things you get when you're older and whatnot. And he said, I don't wish a detached retina on you, but I kind of do. I was like, what does that mean? Like, that sounds terrible. And he had such a positive experience with getting both his eyes done that now they're like bionic, I guess. So I think it's so dependent on your particular situation in your eyes and who you go see and how it shakes down, which is scary, right? I mean, any kind of getting older and any kind of like having any kind of procedures done is so, yeah, I guess you just like anything, like buying a guitar or getting work done on your guitar, fretwork or anything, you got to do your homework. And like, look at John here. He's had it all. He's had the run of the mill, the hip replacements, the knee replacements, the arthritis. Good times. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. Jumping from stream to stream. Who else is doing streams? That's uneffing believable. Let's see. Would be interesting if you do post a video on your songwriting process for your demos. So there is a Guitario lesson that I did recently that is basically that, where I talk a lot about my writing process and how I, develop tunes. It's, if you go to the Guitario, guitar, and then the letter E and the letter O website, you'll see that there's a coming soon with my picture for a course. They're way behind on getting it out. It was supposed to be last fall. So I don't know what's happening. I should contact them. Last I contacted them was in the spring. I was like, what's happening? They're like, oh, we're still editing. I was like, okay, it's been a couple years. But anyways, I guess we'll see what happens. I'd love to give you a solid answer on it, but they haven't given me one. But anyways, that'll be the best, because then you could watch that and basically get the lowdown and then maybe come here and ask me questions and stuff about, so what did you mean by, I can break it down further, but I kind of teach it in that, really. Let's see here. Ordered a DSM Humboldt electronic simplifier 0-watt to get a good sound on my DAW with a real pedalboard. Any thoughts? They're good. I've done videos on them. You can watch my video. I think there's more deluxe ones out now. I saw some videos recently where there's a one with a Marshall voice and an AC30 and a Fendery voice on it. It seems a little more deluxe than even the one that I made a video of. So yeah. They're a cool analog solution, you know, for a pedalboard based amp sim. Your Bad Cat amp video was awesome. Thanks for sharing. Thank you. Yeah, that amp sounds really good. I like the tone, real rich through the mids. That was my memory. Anyone remember Bart Walsh? I do. He was my guitar teacher, played with DLR, great guitar player. Yeah. Good to see you with the DG335. So that's, you know, it's funny. You're speaking about the thumbnail picture. That's actually not mine. It's Ed's from Bare Naked Ladies. And I just play it at the end of the night. It's kind of funny because they said, you know, we'd like to do this jam with you guys. We're like, sure. And I went over and spoke to Ed's tech and talked to him. Should I just play acoustic or what should I do? And he goes, well, dude, you're going to be one of the only guys out there playing. Why don't you play electric? And I was like, cool. And he said, I'll just give you one of Ed's guitars. And, you know, that's what we've been doing because Semisonic was out with them playing. So I just kind of picked up where they left off when they left the tour. And then I took over the fellow from Semisonic's role in the jam, kind of just started playing Ed's guitar. So it's a DG335 from the second run of 200 that they did. Mine's from the first run of 300. When they reissued it, did a second run of 200. He's got one of those. They're very, very rare, those guitars. So it's interesting that we both have one, but in that Pelham blue color, you know. But I spoke with him about it. It's a great guitar. It feels exactly like mine. And yeah, I'm just playing through. I don't even know what amp I'm. It's part of what I love sometimes about things like that is when somebody just hands you a guitar. When they hand you a pick, you don't even have a pick. And you put it on, and you know I'm on in-ears for that song, so I put in my in-ears, and the monitor guy set me up a mix that's kind of what he thought I would like, you know, generic sort of mix. The fellow from Bare Naked Ladies. And I pulled it up and checked the guitar, and then we ran through it once at soundcheck. It's like, sounds perfect. I don't need anything. Great. And that's what I've been running with in doing that jam. So literally didn't ask for volume up, volume down, any change in tone. I just get handed a guitar, and then I get a count off, and I start playing the song. And it's so fun jamming that with the guys it's all the guys from Delamitri and -1. And the Bare Naked Ladies guys and all those Fight for Fighting guys up there jamming at the same time. So it's really fun. It's great. It's great to be out playing. It feels really good. It's hot as hell, like at these gigs, but it's fun. Summer night, good times. Those guys are so fun too. The Bare Naked Ladies guys. They're just, you know, they are very self-deprecating. Don't take themselves too seriously. They love Rush. They love Max Webster. Good Canadians. And it's a super, super fun tour, to be honest. It's great. So showing support. Thanks, Music Life. What's up, man? How are you doing, Arthur? Good to see you. Thank you. Have you decided on a laptop? I have a laptop actually that I'm on right now, which is a newer, about a year old now, Mac M1, kind of full blown 15-inch or 16-inch, 15-inch. I guess it's 15 inches. I don't know if they make a 16. With all the stuff. It's got a terabyte drive and SSD and stuff. And I sort of splurged for the close to top of line one because my intention was maybe to make this my studio computer. My studio computer's getting old, and I thought, well, what if I have a laptop and that's it, and then a monitor in my studio that I plug it into. Then I can kind of have two screens, the laptop screen and another monitor, and then I'll just take the laptop and go on the road. So we'll see, but yeah. So that's what I'm using. Lauren says, hot as hell. That's what the 9.5s are for. Yep, that's true. But they still feel weird when, you know, heat does strange things with the tension and setup on the guitar. It feels like the action's high and like the strings go under one another when you bend. And it's like, what is happening? And it's like all this stuff when there's just so much moisture and heat. And it's funny. So it took a little time yesterday before the show to get I dropped the G and the B string on my main guitar. That feels a little better, and it's something to do with the humidity and stuff. And then when you use tall frets anyway, which I do and I love, but when it's real hot, you really get underneath them, and it feels like the action's higher. It's so weird. I was playing the other day. I was like, certain licks that are easy. It was like when I do my bend up and then grab another string on the way down thing that I always do too much probably. That was really hard, like, to do all of a sudden. So it just felt like the action was all high, and it's not. It's like it's just heat and my hands being sweaty, and it's weird. anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you gig in the heat, I'm sure it's just strange, but yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Hope to catch you in Dundee, Scotland in 2024. Yeah. There's a new classic rock show video up of us doing Back in Black. If you guys want to check it out, don't leave or open up in another window and check it out. But if you go to Classic Rock Show 2023, you'll find it. It's the latest upload to their page. When I flew over there to just do one show and film it, that was the opening of the show, so it was really fun. Oh, there's Naive Steve. Cracking version of Back in Black. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's fun. Jesse sings the AC/DC great, right? He's really good at it. They're giving you the Guitario, the AI treatment. It's going to be Pete Thorn, the Japanese anime. Yeah, it could be. They're taking their time with it. Yeah. Okay, what else we got? Just bought the shirt, PT Sig HH. Can you do a quick review of pickup settings? Sure. So, well, let's just start with the bridge. So that's what I use the most. But then, of course, you get the parallel setting by pulling the tone knob. I use that a lot, especially on this set. On the Five for Fighting set, I use the parallel setting a lot. It's just great, like for a kind of wiry, quasi-telly, I guess, bridge pickup sound or something. Not exactly, but it, in single coil output, but not single coil. What else about it? Oh yeah, so then in position 2, you get the two inside coils, I think. 2 inside coils of the humbuckers, and that gives you a nice in-between sort of kind of stratty or telly in the middle sound. And then you go to the middle position humbucker, and that's your Whole Lotta Love sound, which is really cool. It's got still got lots of snap and clarity, but it's fatter, obviously, because it's humbuckers. And the next one is the neck humbucker, and then all the way up is the neck single coil, because I found myself using that a lot. So just to kind of maybe backwards from what you would think it would be. Anybody that doesn't like that, by the way, if you get one of my guitars, the double humbucker, if you'd rather have just the full-on humbucker in the neck, it's an easy one-wire mod that any tech should be able to do. But I just liked it that way. Love your playing. What are your thoughts on using your Sir 212 PT15 with a 2-Rock Studio signature? I don't know that amp, but I love the cabinet. So it's pretty hard to go wrong with a greenback and a V30. It's a great combo, I think. But yeah, if you want a super Fendery sound or something, it won't exactly be that. It'll be like, oh, Fender by way of England or something, with the Celestians. So it just depends what you like. But I love that little cabinet. I've always loved it. It's the same dimensions as those little Marshall cabs that they came out with for the 2061X head years ago. And I just always liked those little cabs. And it reminds me of my first Marshall cabinet, which was a very similar size, the 410 that they came out with in the 80s. And so, yeah. And it's just, as people downside, it's just a nice size for people, I find. So, yeah. Yeah. I'm just backing up a little bit here through the questions and stuff. Need a great bass tone for home recording. I use UA stuff. I'm not sure what interface you're on, but I love the UA B15 as well as the UA. Lately, the SVT Pro 3, which is the first plugin they came up with, which was for the tube front end solid state back end bass amp. I made a really nice preset on that. That's just a great straight up the middle rock tone. It's not dirty or anything. It's got maybe a little grunt in it, but the B15 is real warm and lovely, and but sometimes I find if I want a bit more aggressive, I need to go somewhere else. So if it's a mellow tune, I'll use the B15. If it's a little more straight up the middle, I need a little more clarity, I'll go to that SVT Pro 3 over the old SVT Classic plugin. Actually, I just found a setting I liked. I also, if I want a really cool, like very clean, like almost like warm DI sound, I use the GK800 bass thingamajig. Now for some rock stuff, I've been using the Dark Glass bass preamp, which is a Neural DSP plugin. It's a Dark Glass, bass preamp sim, and that thing's got some great distorted tones, mixed with DI, and you can kind of blend it, and it's really good for more dirty stuff. They also make something called parallel. It might be called the parallelizer or something, or parallel something or other, but it's a bit kind of a metal bass rig thing with like DI and clean amp and dirty amp. You can blend them all. So you could look at that and see. Somebody says, don't go to Guitar Center for your surgery. Funny, I went into Guitar Center this morning because one of my speaker cables got broken out here. The end got smushed on it. And can you believe that Guitar Center didn't have any speaker cables other than a 25-foot kind of expensive one? That was it. I mean, they've got a whole wall of instrument cables. And then I went in okay, maybe they put the speaker cables in the PA department. I went over there and they had XLR cables and they had some TRS cables and some RCA cables and no speaker cables. I'm like, how do you guys plug in? Oh, nobody used cabs. I see. You know, they had an EVH Iconic out on the floor, which was the only head and cabinet that was out there. And there was a cable. I looked back and there's a cable plugged in the cabinet. I almost thought, can I buy this from you? Like the one that probably came with the amp that was very short, but I was like, I could probably make it work. It was amazing but that's, I guess, the state of affairs maybe in some ways that we're in, where like, come on, you got to get speaker cables. Like people still have Marshalls and like 1/4-inch speaker cables, you know? It's like, I was blown away. I bought the only speaker cable in the store. That's a mess. Oh, okay. Let's see. Stephen is a doctor. I forget this. You're a doctor. Are you an eye surgeon though, or are you a different kind of doctor? I'm sorry, I don't know that. I should know that by now. But you're peeling vitrectomy against neurons, retina cells, right? I understand. It's basically ripping on the back of the floaters have to be debilitating to consider it. I mean, it's scary as hell, but I'm sitting here going like this with my head because what I'm doing is moving the floater that's in my left eye. So I wouldn't call it completely debilitating, but it's hard to read, you know, which is, I'm sure you've heard before, you know. That's what I do. I go like this, and then it flies around in my vision long enough for me to just read the comment. That's where I'm at. So I don't want to risk blindness really, but it's like, it sucks, you know, having to do that every time you read. So that's, if you ever see me going like this, or my eyes look funny no matter what, but if I'm going like this, it's because I'm trying to get this thing to fly out of the field of vision so that I can read your comments. It's crazy. Would you personally use a Lynch mod on a JCM 800 or just overdrive SD1? I really like the Lynch mod one. I really like the standard hot mod too. I like them both. Really like them. You know, they've got a good tone. It's a cool, I mean, listen to both my videos on them and then you decide. It is a different feeling on an SD1. To me, an SD1 is a great sound into a Marshall, totally cool. It still sounds like an SD1 to a Marshall and feels like one, which is pedal into amp. The Lynch thing, as well as the standard hot mod thing, this is this tube replacement that you can put in an amp and it adds an extra gain stage to the amp. I did a video on it a couple weeks ago. It's for Marshalls and a few other amps you can use it in. It has a more organic part of the amp feel because it's part of the amp. It's in the preamp and it's running at high voltage and all that stuff, lots of headroom, and it's just a different feel, different, you know, it's a little bit different. So yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like it's a part of the amp circuit as opposed to feeling like a pedal boosting an amp, and that's the difference. So yeah. Okay, let's see, just double checking on the sound check thing. I just got to make sure. So sound check 415 is okay. Double checking. Of course, it changed sound check to soundtrack. Oh, and now I got the voice text on. There we go. Bonkers. Okay, I'm going to head to the bottom of the chat and see what you guys are talking about. Let's see. Oh, no, got that one already. I see another one just popped up, though. Let's see. See what else you guys are talking about here on the way down to the super chat. Humidity is the worst. I can take 80 degrees, but humidity is the worst. Humidity is pretty gnarly. I find I do pretty good in the heat. I mean, when other people are going, man, it is hot, I'm like, I feel pretty good generally. I mean, I don't mind it. Better than cold to me. My PT Sig is at SUR getting jumbo frets installed. That's interesting. Did you get one with 6105s, like or that size? Because the first few had those, and then we went to the bigger fret about a year later. Because I thought, most of them are going to have the biggest fret you can get. Yeah. Happy Sunday from Denver. What's up? How you doing? There's a reason why vitrectomy is not the standard of care for floaters. Even had a few patients acquire glaucoma. Go for the refractive lens exchange. I would like to do that for my vision. For those of you out there that don't know, you can get a new lens in your eye that actually corrects your vision. So it's like, it's like cataract surgery, but they put in a new lens and it actually, then you don't need contacts anymore. It's interesting. That's what we're talking about. Lens exchange, refractive lens exchange. Then I wouldn't need contact lenses or glasses. So pretty crazy what they're doing these days with those surgeries. I was under the impression that anytime you get refractive lens exchange, you got to do vitrectomy, but I guess not, eh? Anyways, I can't believe GC doesn't have speaker cables. I know, it's crazy. They didn't have a speaker cable when I went in this morning. It's nuts. Entertainment Speculation Bass Recording Tips says, I just sometimes run my bass through the Neve 1073 UAD plugin with 1176 after it. Great for DI. And then you can always, put it in your DAW and then double it down onto another track and add an amp sim on another track later if you want. Just get a good DI guitar sound. That's good. It's a good practice, kind of good idea, because it leaves it till the mix to, if you're like, I want to add an amp sound. Yeah. Do you have to change EQ settings on your quad Cortex when you play at different venues to adjust for acoustics? No, I don't do that. It sounds great. I did my presets for Five for Fighting last year, captured my amps and stuff, and I just pulled them up again. This year I had to make a couple new ones for some different songs. They sound good. Man, I'm very happy with the sound, to be honest, on stage. Got a couple of those 112s up there, and they just got this stereo thing going. It sounds terrific. And our sound guy, Chris, who was new to us this year, he said, man, that thing sounds great, the PA. So it was very simple, I do, for those that don't know, I do a quad Cortex rig out on this tour where I'm running it into a Matrix power amp on stage and two 112s just for on stage. I don't have any mics on them. And then I run a second set of outputs with speaker simulation out of the quad to the PA. It's so simple. I can get my sound on stage at any volume, and it sounds really good. Here's that super chat from Rumi. I've been comparing the UA Silver Jubilee Sim to my Jubilee amp. I can get good sounds from both. However, I'm finding the Sim fatiguing to listen to while tracking. Any tips or solutions? It's fatiguing to listen to. Well, find the EQ. Generally, that fatiguing to listen to would be could be anywhere between 1 to 3K, probably somewhere in the mids. What I'll do is I'll take an EQ in my DAW and I'll set a kind of narrow bandwidth, so it's kind of a sharp peak, and then I'll pull it up like 10 dB, and then I'll sweep it and try and find where it hits the and then I'll just take that and notch it down a few dB. I don't get crazy, but if there's some frequency in there you're not digging, or try a different IR on the, like turn off the speaker simulation. I think the Jubilee one is probably made by Softtube. I don't know if you can disable the cabinet sim or not. But if you basically like the sound and it's just a little fatiguing, just on the track that you're recording to, on the return path, just do a little EQ. Like I say, pull it up, sweep it around, find the annoying frequency and notch it down a little bit, and then just listen to it like that. And then when you get to the mix, if you find like, oh, that's making it disappear in the mix a little bit, you can just take the EQ off. You didn't print it like that, Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah. Okay, what else? What else? I went to Sam Ash the other day, and they had everything. They also had awesome customer service. I like Sam Ash, generally speaking, in my experience. Yeah. Floaters can clear up with some dietary adjustments. Really? Had them bad, now they're mostly gone. Turmeric. Really? I haven't heard that, but okay. I'll look into that. Check it out. I got one that's gnarly. It's like in the shape of an L with a little squiggly pigtail thing in the middle. It just cruises around all day. I should give it a name. Steve. We'll call it Steve. Steve the floater. What's up, Steve? Get out of the way. I'm trying to read. John says my PT Sig is a 2017. Yeah, that one might have had the slightly smaller frets. We went from those to the full jumbos after about a year. Yeah. Okay. What else? What else you guys talking about here? I live in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and the heat is brutal out there. Be safe. Stay hydrated. I will. Yeah, I will. I'll be sure and stay hydrated. Yeah. Okay. Reading through your comments, reading through the chat. Hey, from Germany, says Horst. What's up, man? Good to see you. Got 275 people online. Nice to have you all here. Nice to have you all here. Did Eddie Van Halen and Jimmy Page use same concept with panning reverb for stereo effect? I don't think, the thing with the reverb and the panning with Eddie, I don't know that the reverb is really panned. It's also in the guitar channel. So if you listen to it, the guitar is in the one channel, but it's just really loud because that's where the dry guitar is in. And then there's reverb over here, and you can really hear the reverb because there's lots of it. But there's also reverb over here. So maybe they're panned, like 9 and 3, or maybe they're panned 10 and 2, or maybe the guitar is 9 and then the reverb's just panned a little bit right to even out the image. But the reverb isn't like hard pan. It's not all reverb on one side and then dry on the other side. So that's one thing about it, just to consider. But beyond that, I don't really think Jimmy Page did any one thing. I mean, there's a lot of different Jimmy Page tones. There's a lot of different Eddie tones too, but Jimmy, it was very, there's so many different like notchy guitar sounds, DI guitar sounds, fuzzed out guitar sounds, cleaner guitar sounds, acoustic guitar sounds. So, we'd have to go song by song, I guess, when I think of Jimmy's tones. And then you'd have to show me like the one that you're thinking of, see if it's like similar to. Yeah, Eddie never liked the reverb in the one side thing, from the way I understand it, which is why he went wet, dry, wet later. And by albums like 5150 and stuff, you're getting this big full, and certainly by, the 90s, and, you got guitar all over the place, with, the eventide and stuff and the spread. So he didn't really like that reverb thing. That was a mixed decision, I think, that they made, to just spread the band around a little bit, because, they didn't want the whole band in mono, guitar up the middle, vocal up the middle, bass up the middle, drums sort of stereo, but basically the band's mono. So what do you do, Had he discovered some sort of wet, dry, wet or chorus or something in 78, he probably would have done it, Modern Vintage says, you've said your in-ear monitors with lots of drivers were the worst for guitar due to too much bass. I have the same issue. So, dude, I actually, I've got these new ones. I'm going to show them to you. I got them in my bag right here. Heck are they? These are my Ultimate Ears UE Pros. And I got these a little while ago, and I've been evaluating them. I'm making a little video. It's hard to make a video about in-ears because you can't show how they sound. So all I can do is really talk about them in the different situations I'm using them in. But These are 22 drivers per side, and they wanted me to make a video on them, and I was scared initially. I said, like, 22 drivers. The last time I tried anything with 12 drivers, it just sounded like all bass, like you're saying. I did say that, you know. And when I said there's too much bass, they said, oh, you'd probably like our 5 driver or 6 driver, then more mid-range centric kind of. And I'm like, okay. So I just sort of went more drivers, more bass. That's what happens. Don't want that, right? So when they asked me about these and they go, they've got 22 drivers, I was like, I'm going to hate those, you know? And I tried them. They said, no. They're very balanced and just really rich sounding and super efficient. So they're very loud, these in-ears. So if you normally run your in-ear pack on 5, run these on like 3, you know, and there's plenty of headroom there and stuff. They're very efficient. But man, do they sound good, I must say. I've been using them. I'm going to go and bring them tonight. I've been using a wedge for the main Five for Fighting set, and then I use the in-ears out with Bare Naked Ladies when I go out for the encore, and they sound great, man. And the mix is really good. They dialed up for me, and it's pretty pleasurable. So I'm gonna go work on my in-ear mix in about an hour here, actually, and get a little mix going and stuff. Just so I got the option. I always got a wedge, but you can get the in-ear mix going. But anyways, they don't sound crazy bassy, those ones. They do extend really low. They're sub, but it's not out of balance with everything. They just sound rich all the way through. It's a very hi-fi, like cool listening experience. So I guess I stand corrected, you know. I think maybe in the past, more drivers just meant more bass, more full, more loud, more whatever. And now it seems like they've addressed that, at least with these, you know. Because I've heard other people say the same thing. They go, oh yeah, I tried the ones with 18 drivers or 12 drivers, and they go, I just use 3 driver ones. That's what people would tell me. Compared to UE7s, the standard kind of Ultimateer for years and years, which are 3 driver, these sound richer through the mids, more detailed, less sort of papery or something, just more like warm and like a good system, you know, when you're listening to like nice hi-fi speakers or something. That's what they sound like. So it's pretty cool. So your mileage may vary, you know, depends on what you get, but those are UE Pros. And video on those coming pretty soon. What time we got here? 12:41. Geez, guys, I got to go pretty soon. Which it's a short one. It feels like really short today, but I gotta do sound check in a bit. All right, there's Sasha Boo Boo. What's up, man? Pete Thorn autograph, National City, California Clinic on my studio wall next to Dishwalla, Tracy Bonham, and Howlin' Wolf posters. Thank you for the inspiration. I remember meeting you. I remember that's a great store. And it's thank you so much, and thanks for being here, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Oh yeah, what else we got here? Let's see. Probably rare, but I've always had great experiences with Guitar Center. Well, it's always down to people, you know. It's a top-down operation. When you get a good store with a good manager and they hire well, and you know, all that kind of stuff, it's always down to people, you know. Right? Because I've had great experiences at Guitar Center too. Really good. I mean, the one in Hollywood where they had an artist guy that was kind of like, they had their own artist relations thing because it's Hollywood. It's like big players coming in or whatever, I guess, you know. So anyways, there was a guy that I got friendly with there named Dave Weiderman, who was the artist, kind of Guitar Center artist relations guy for years. And he's super knowledgeable. He would give me great deals on things and really helpful. So they've got a different fella now, and I'm kind of out of touch with them. But you know, it's always down to the people, isn't it? So, what was your reaction to Van Halen's Balance album? You know, I'll be honest. I tuned out a little bit by then. It was the mid-90s, and I really liked the previous record. By the time Balance came around, I was going through a phase of being in a kind of a pop band, and was writing acoustic singer-songwriter stuff. I had an acoustic duo right then. And I was doing a completely different thing. I was not playing solos. I was not. I was like listening to Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, and like totally out of it when it came to rock for a few years. Really, it was a funny time in music where it was like, you know, the '80s. There was a big hangover, and I was trying to navigate that and not be. I fell back on my Beatles and Who roots, you know. Because it was kind of, nobody wanted to know anything about solos and shredding. There was a time where you couldn't play one. Anybody remember that? Like, if, you know, it just wasn't cool, and it wasn't, and it was also like, it felt like I moved to LA, and when I moved to LA, it was 1990. And so it was the era of that music being very, starting to eat itself and becoming very toxic, kind of, almost. I don't know how else to describe it. It just was like, you know, it was just, there was no more Van Halen. And I mean, at least not in LA. It felt like it wasn't Van Halen of the early 80s and the kind of the explosion of when it was cool. It felt very like Poison, you know, and not Winger. I love Reb, but, you know, Winger is actually an exception because they wrote great. They were more like a pop band that had great, you know, his soloing was so melodic. But I was going to say Warrant. It was all Cherry Pie and, you know, and Poison and stuff in LA. And I was just like, you know, when it went away, I was like, it was kind of like, I don't know, because I grew up sort of listening to, you know, obviously rock in the 80s and stuff. But then when we got into the 90s, it was like Dirt by Alice in Chains came out. That I liked, you know, it was like, this is cool. And Soundgarden, of course. And, but it was a very different feel. And I just went, you know, I'm just going to kind of go over here for a minute and not think about. So the balance, I just sort of missed the boat on, but not out of, you know, any kind of like, oh, I don't like Van Halen anymore. I always love Van Halen. I mean, it's like in my, but I was just listening to other things and focusing on it. And the one thing I'll say about balance is just like I felt like at least on For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, there was a real fun element with Run Around and all that, those songs. I felt like Balance was a really serious record, even though it had like Amsterdam, I guess, on it, which is a tune about partying and stuff. I know part of Van Halen was always the fun, summertime, good times sort of. And I felt like Balance was just a little more serious. And I think that was just reflecting the time in the band was a little, maybe it was strained between Ed and Sammy or something, or I just didn't, I don't know. It wasn't. And when I listen to it now, I love like the instrumental and I love elements of it, but it's not something I go back and listen to all the time. I preferred For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, you know? And then when they came out with the 2 tunes with Dave in 96, loved that, you know, because it was like, had the old, to me, I mean, it was like, God, I wish they'd done a whole album then, or 8 tunes or something, you know, anything. But it just had this, that fun party, you know, like, you know what I'm talking about, Can't Get This Stuff No More, and Me Wise Magic. It was just fun. I loved it. It was like a little return to form, and it was very different sounding. It was just cool. I don't know, for me. So anyways, glad you're making an in-ears video. I'm having a hard time finding a new pair. The last pair I had were given to me at NAMM. Yeah, check them out. I mean, they're not inexpensive, these ones, but I'm doing it from the perspective of I do need to mix on the, like I'm making videos right now and stuff out here to put out, and, you know, slowly but surely I'm going to get some videos done this week. But, you know, I need a good reference, and so they are serving me well for that. You know, I feel like I can trust them because they're real. Everything's there. In your opinion, what matters more for your tone, guitar or amp? Yeah, I would say it's actually the amp. I mean, the guitar is a huge factor, and your hands are a huge factor. But I would say, I'm just gonna send text, just doing Sunday Live. I think you're right. Like an amp, like the difference between a deluxe reverb and a Marshall JCM 800 is massive, you know. Whereas the difference between a Tele and a Les Paul is big, but not as massive, you know. The difference between a dirty tone and a totally clean tone is something you can get out of an amp, whereas a guitar is going to be more like a shade, you know. Even single coils to, it's still a big difference, but the amp is huge for sure. Amps, speakers, you know, if we lump the speakers in, big. So how was your visit at Sweetwater? Awesome. Actually had a lot of fun. Hung out with a lot of friends, and I've got some good videos coming, so it should be good. Where are you having dinner in Charleston? I don't know. We'll see. Lots of good places around here, I think, though. Looks like a fun town. Who's that? Peter Evans. What's up, man? He says, thanks for jumping on. So videos this week. So yeah, video this week coming for, I put up a little clip of a Tech 21 SansAmp PSA 2.0 on my Instagram, cutting a solo for that. That video will get done this week and I'll put it out. It's a really great sounding pedal if you like that SansAmp tone. I mean, it basically sounds like the old one. It's a classic sound, but it's MIDI programmable. So you got 128 presets, and it's in that long kind of like the Richie Kotzen pedal or the, you know, the Geddy Lee or the Steve Harris bass one. They put them in those long kind of housings, and well, not that long. They're actually quite compact, but anyway, it's programmable and stuff. My knees hurt is asking about. Thanks, Peter, for the super chat. Appreciate that. But other than that one, I was gonna say I'll be working on this microphone video that I did at Sweetwater. Guitar amp microphones. So we mic'd up with like about 8 different microphones, some ribbons, condensers, dynamics, including a couple new ones that I'm really jazzed on. So that'll be a fun video. I did it with Sean Dealey there in their recording studio, and I had a really good time. Rhett got in on it too. Rhett Scholl, he's a part of it, and it was really fun. So my knees hurt. Is the PT15212 cab the same width, top to bottom? Yes, it's a straight cab. So same top to bottom. Yeah, it's not a slant. Yeah. What else do we have here? There's my alarm telling me that it's almost time to split. I'll hang another 5 and then I gotta go. Let's see here. I lived the same time, just down in the OC in those early 90s years. Yeah. It became uncool to know how to solo. Yeah, it was like, you know, there really was a time when it was like, can you just play the vocal melody? Like, think of like Come As You Are. Right? You know, I'm gonna get flagged for just singing for copyright. But you know what I mean? It was literally like, just do that, because that's kind of what Nirvana did or whatever. And it was like, it wasn't cool to play like super technical or solos, or, you know, it's just out of the fact, which doesn't mean like that's what you should follow. It was just like, that's what people were doing. And there was an element of it that felt like it was time for that to like, do you know what I mean? Like it just needed to go away for a minute because it was just getting a little gratuitous. To be honest, I almost feel like that now a little bit, although I feel like different about it, because now it's just splintered in lots of subdivisions and the different, you know, but it's like when you just see on Instagram, you know, shredding and, you know, people tapping and doing crazy. I mean, it's cool and all that. It's cool, but it's like, as long as there's a song there and some music coming out, and it's not just look at what I can do. I get a little tired of like everybody's talent all the time. Look at the craziest thing that I came up with this week that's so difficult. Right? I don't know. So when it comes to solos and stuff and the gratuitous sort of like, it's just expected, you know, it's like I'm sort of more in it for music than anything, you know. So I just you know, I don't know if anybody else feels that way or not, but it just tires me out a little bit. That's a bring back the solo, dude. The solo is back. Are you kidding? It's like, just turn on Instagram. The solo is there, you know. I love solos, don't get me wrong, I love it, but you know, I loved Eddie and Neil Schon and you know, like the melody and the, you know, like the part of a song. That was my kind of solo. I mean, I just, you know, and if I loved solos that were instrumental, it was, you know, I love Satriani, you know, I loved Jeff Beck, you know, and that kind of thing, and you know, Eric Johnson, because it soared and it had an arc and it had a song, you know, there was always a song. So I'm a song guy, you know, a hardcore song guy. So as long as I can solo as well as Ace Frehley, I'm happy. Yeah, I mean, Ace was absolutely, you know, short and melodic, you know, definitely. So solos are way in now, thank God. I love them. I mean, I love solos, but it's just as long as it's in service of a song, you know, that's just right. I don't know. Am I crazy? You know, I hate mindless wanking. Yeah. As long as it's mindful wanking. Yeah. Well, guys, I think I gotta go because I've got sound check in 20 minutes and I gotta go 0.5 of a mile. So I better get going. I don't want to make anybody angry. It sucks. I wish I could be here longer today, but anyway, I'm glad I made it. Glad I got into the room and was able to at least do this. Next week, I'll let you know what I'm doing. Well, if I can't make it, then I'll let you know, and I'm pretty sure I can make it. So I'll adjust the time if I can't make it at the usual, and make it work somehow. Okay. I'm off to enjoy my sound check in Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for your super chats and your support. And I'll get some videos, other stuff coming out this week during the week. And everybody have a terrific week and be nice to one another. And thanks for the medical advice, vitrectomies, etc., and lens replacement. Everybody have a terrific week. Love you all. Take it easy.